Hey, what's going on? Todd Shaw with another episode of the Sawdust Dude. Oh yeah! Hey, I appreciate you watching. Hey guys, thanks so much. Doing this video tonight for the Carpenter Apprentice, and shout out to Jacob and a couple other dudes that sent me some messages over the past week or so, and it's great to hear. Just like, hey, keep up the good work. Appreciate the videos. It's helping us in our job. So, guys, listen, I appreciate you watching. Hey, tonight we're going to be talking about hammers. And, if you go, like today, I was in my local Lowe's and I was looking around at all the hammers. I was like, holy smokes, it's been a while since I purchased a hammer, but I was like, wow, there's quite a few out there. And it just made me think, too. I was like, that can kind of be overwhelming. If you're starting out, which hammer do I get? Bigger's better, all, heavier and all that other stuff. So look, we're going to do a breakdown of all the hammers that you'll see on a construction site. And make sure you stick around to the very end. I've got some tips on techniques about how to use a hammer properly. Because if you bend enough nails and they caught you enough names and you're spending all your time pulling nails or straightening out nails, just a few little tips and tricks can really kind of get you going in the right direction. But before we get started, I was thinking about this. How many songs do you know with the word hammer in it? I've thought about some old like 60s folk kind of, if I had a hammer, I'd hammer all over the world, that kind of stuff. Peter Gabriel's Sledge Hammer, totally off track here, but leave a comment below. What songs do you know with the word hammer in it? Hey, we're carpenters. It's all about the hammer. When you're on the job site, you're going to see quite a few hammers, really, that carpenters are using. And this is every hammer that I have, that I've used over the years and still use, that I keep in my work van so that I'm ready to do whatever task that I need to do. Really, it's about working smart and not hard, and that usually is having the right tool for the right job. So let's just kind of start off this way. You got your house laid out. You've got your foundation, and you're laying kind of like on top of the foundation. And so you're putting down your pressure-treated wood, because pressure-treated wood goes on top of concrete and not regular wood. So, but the brick masons and all just kind of left things a mess, and you got chips of cement and a mortar everywhere, and so you will need a little tool looks like this, and this is called a brick mason's hammer, and a real straight claws on it. And so this end you can even sharpen it up, because this was kind of blunted. And but you see a brick mason, he'll Lots of times you see a brick mason with a brick, and he'll sit there and chop that brick like that, and then boom, and that brick will crack exactly where he wants it to crack. But a lot of times on the job site, things get, you're going to need a brick mason hammer just to clean up the work so you can get started. So brick mason hammer, it kind of looks like that. Another hammer that comes in real handy, especially on the construction framing aspect of it, I call this a mini sledge, or a 3-pound hammer. This dude is old, okay? It's got a wooden handle, and it's a little 3-pound sledgehammer. And I tell you what, that thing will move a wall. And so if you got a wall over here that needs to be moved, you take a piece of sacrificial wood and you just beat it like that, so you can slide it over a couple more inches. Maybe you laid it out on the wrong side of the line, and stuff like that happens. But instead of dragging out the big sledgehammer, this little mini sledge does a great job. Kind of going on down, let's just say this is more like a trim carpenter, finish carpenter kind of tools, but this is a flooring hammer. Now I use this for a lot of different purposes, because it is a good persuader. And when I say flooring, I mean just hardwood floors. It's like 3/4 of an inch thick. And a lot of times you use this with a nail gun. It just goes in the groove and pow, pow. And this thing is just like an $80 hammer. It's loaded with shot in it. But you can also, a lot of these hammers, you wear out the ends in them. and that end will screw off. And so this end's a little bit softer, that's a little bit harder on that end. And so you can adjust, you know, they have different colors, yellow, red, different things like that. And it's just really the rubber, how soft or how hard it is. So this is like a flooring mallet. I use this thing a lot too, like for building decks. And that thing will just, you know, you got a double or triple joist, that'll move it right there. And does a little bit less damage to the wood than, say, like that mini sledge. Okay, so that's like a flooring hammer. Here's another rubber mallet. Boy, you can see that. Look at that. That is flat wore out. And the reason it's worn out because we're sitting here clicking lock flooring, you know, just butted up tight and getting it scooted over and getting it to lock properly. And so a lot of times you're just hitting the subfloor and it just wears out the top of that rubber mallet. But that's where a rubber mallet really doesn't scar up and do damage to the wood, but it's just a great tool to have. It's not real heavy, doesn't do a lot of damage, but gets that last little eighth of an inch that you need to go. Now, here's a mallet that you're like, gosh, what in the world is that? Yeah, this is a wood mallet that I actually made here in the shop out of a piece of firewood. I'm going to have a video on that later on, so if you want to see how I made this, check it out. It'll say like from firewood to whatever. It hadn't really come up with a title, but you'll see this mallet on the thumbnail, but should be coming out in the next week or so. But a lot of times I use this for, you know, you're doing some chisel work. And so, I guess I can use it. So you got to chisel work it. And so you sit here with your mallet and just kind of chisel that out. I don't want something like a hammer, a carpenter's hammer, because it'll just ruin the handles on my chisel. So these mallets aren't real heavy. They are not real heavy. And so they do a good job as far as when you're working with a chisel. And you can do a little more detailed work. You know, these guys like this, they're the persuader. You know, like move. I said move now. You know, this one's like, okay, let me just nudge you along. And so you got to use the right tool for the right job. And that's what I'm talking about as far as working smart, not hard. Well, let's talk about hammers for carpenters. Really, you got kind of two different types of categories. You've got the frame carpenter will use a totally different hammer than a general carpenter. And when I say general carpenter, you can be a framer, but then, you know, a guy that does remodeling work or addition work, you know, you'll do the framing and then you do trim work and finish work. Well, you're more likely to see this type of hammer on a general carpenter. But let's talk first about the framing carpenter. Usually like a framing hammer, and right up here on the top you'll see the hammers are sold by their weight. And so 22 to 28 ounce hammer is about what a frame carpenter will use. And you can see how the framing hammer is a little bit longer, and that's just so you can get more leverage and more swing in the swinging nails, or if you gotta, you know, pull up a joist or something like that, you just got a lot more leverage with the framing hammer. And so that's why, you know, I mean, I keep two hammers with me, because when I'm framing, you know, I want to work smart. I don't want a smaller one just doesn't have the leverage that the big hammer has. So I like keeping two hammers, and so that this is like a 22 ounce hammer. I personally don't like super heavy hammers, but a framing hammer, you know, it's got a real long handle on it. On the face of the hammer, and this is called the head, just the outside part, but this is called the face. A lot of times on a framer's framing hammer, you'll see like a waffle. It'll have like little bumps everywhere. And and when you first buy that hammer, man, that thing, it'll tear up some wood. And if you hit your finger, it'll tear up your finger. So a lot of guys will take a file and just kind of file those sharp edges down a little bit. It's kind of like a meat tenderizer. And so I just really never got into that. They say that it helps grip the nail. So if you got So if you're got a 16 penny nail, and so you're sitting there and it grips the top of the nail, because even on a construction grade nail, it's kind of got a waffle top on it as well. So that's the framing hammer. It's a little bit longer, a little bit heavier as ounce wise goes, 22 to 28 ounce, and it may have a waffle face on it. One other thing to kind of point out, sometimes the claws on them are a little bit straighter. This one's got a slight curve to it, but sometimes the claws on them, and they call those like a goat head. A goat head or a rip hammer for demo as well, and that hammer really sinks into the wood. So I got a piece of wood like that, and I can use it just to tear stuff up with. So basically, that's your framing hammer. The other hammer that I use is just a general purpose or a finished trim Carpenter hammer, and so those usually come to about 14 to 16 ounces. I usually do about the 16 ounce hammer. Any lower than that is pretty much a toy, so don't go any lower than 14 ounce hammer. And these are just, you see one's a little bit longer, and with all hammers, they'll have either a wooden handle or fiberglass handle or some type of metal, and this is all metal. There's some that are metal and have like a tube. I wouldn't get that. I really wouldn't recommend those. Those just kind of tear up. Not a real high grade quality. Some framing hammers you'll see they'll have real wide handles and it'll be all cut out and all that stuff. Never used that. I get the idea. It's stronger and lighter, but wooden handle hammers will work great. And so the wood and the fiberglass really just kind of absorb the shock of the hammering. And so I've just kind of always used a fiberglass or a wood handled hammer. In recent years I've switched over to these metal ones like this. And they work well too, because just the grips. One of the reasons that I kind of switched over, this is an old Plum hammer, fiberglass. And Plum is a great brand. East Wing, these hammers here are East Wings, they're real good. So just kind of really, it's all about preference. It's like a Ford or a Chevrolet or a Cadillac. So whatever whatever fits you and feels good. But hey, let's talk a little bit about techniques, and I'm gonna use really both hammers, a 22 ounce hammer and the 16 or the 18 ounce hammer, the framing hammer or the Carpenter's hammer, either one. But when we're talking about techniques, what type of hammer you use, you kind of notice that the ends at the end kind of flares out. Well, that's kind of where you want your grip. You can see how I grip it this way. It's really just kind of all the way in my thumb, and I wrap it around. One of the things that you really want to do, you don't want to choke up on your hammer. We just kind of call that, you're over there like peck, 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 like that. That's not working smart. You're not using the whole leverage or the whole strength of the hammer. That's just kind of like at half speed. Grab that hammer all the way at the end like that, and take your thumb over your pointer finger and move it like that, okay? And just get a good grip on it. So you got your hammer, because you don't want to up here, you're just not going to get any power like that, and you're more apt to bend nails. It'll take you longer to drive, and it's harder to work. I think I've told this story before on another video, but I was working, we had a summer intern with us, and a dude had all new tools, and had him a nice, it was a Carpenter's hammer, but it was a Plum, the brand name Plum. It had a wooden hammer, a wooden handle, and he was choking up on that, and he's just picking away. She's doing that, sound like a woodpecker up there, just picking away, and it took him forever just to drive that nail up. And so, old dude I worked with, Goat, he said, hey boy, he said, Todd, show that boy how to hold that hammer. I said, hey man, grab it like this, dude. Hey, swing that thing, man. Don't be afraid of it. He's over there, peck, 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 And Goat finally said, hey boy, throw me that hammer. Let me see that. That looks good. I want to see it. Threw it down to Goat. Goat looked at that hammer, that wooden handle, took the saw, construction saw, circular saw, and sawed about, I don't know, about 6 inches off off his hammer. The kid was like, oh, that's a brand new hammer. This is what you wasn't using the back of it anyway. Hard lesson to learn. Well, you know what? I learned a lesson that day. And so you hold it all at the very end, and that way you just kind of get a good swing. And that's another part when we're talking about the swing. And I'll use the framing hammer here. One of the things when you're swinging that hammer, it's just a lot of guys just kind of use the wrist, but really you want to use the whole arm. You see how high I get that hammer, up in the air like that? And so I take the nail and I can take it between and just kind of pinch it with my thumb and my index finger like that. And so really a lot of times I use 2 fingers. And you're just going to set the nail, and it's just going to be 2 little taps like that, but it's like that. And so I got the nail, and you just drive it on in. And so you see how high the hammer came up all the way by my head. My arm is just kind of uptight by my body. Let me grab another nail. Here's another like framing nail. So here we go. I set it, and then boom. Just like that. And so you get that full swing of motion right there. Now if you got a smaller nail, like a roofing tack, that you're going to put down felt paper, or you're doing shingles, a roofing tack, you're going to take it and you're going to hold it between your first 2 fingers like that. And then you're going to just do 1 set. Because the nail's not so long, you just give it a good tap, and then it's just like that. And then you drive it on home. You see how high that thing, even with this lighter hammer, went up and boom, it's in there. Now, so that's the driving techniques. Grip it at the end. Get a nice grip of it. Don't be afraid. If you're going to swing it like a girl, swing it like a big girl. Come on, man. Swing that thing. So, that's that. Elbow stays close to my body. If you get it out, watch this. Watch the head of that. Now see if I move my elbow out. See how that head rotates around? That might be one of the reasons that you're bending so many nails. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about why you might be missing nails. So from here, I set it. And this nail's kind of already bent up. I've straightened it up 2 or 3 times. Keep using this. So why do I hit it? See how it just shanked over like that? Well, if you don't get a good surface-to-surface contact, you may just be getting a glancing blow. So keep your eye on the nail. Number 1 is your first and foremost. Number 2, make sure your elbow's in, because remember when I say you do it out, and so that makes you're striking it at the side, you're going to cause that nail to bend. The other reason is this: your hammer may be too light, and you're just trying so hard to drive that nail, or it's too heavy, and you could be afraid that, man, I don't want to hit my finger again, and so you just kind of holding back, and so you're like, you're all over the place. All right, so set it. Even when you see how I bend it, and you adjust and go. All right, it makes me think back to a time on my granddaddy King's farm, and he had me pulling nails for like a week. I pulled a couple gallons. That's when 16 penny nails were about 3 inches long. And I pulled 2 or 3 5-gallon buckets full of 16 penny nails. And I was like, hey, Granddaddy, I got them all pulled. He's like, good, now straighten them out. And I sat there, it was like straightening out nails, and I had more blood blisters. But because that was like good practice. He was cheap and wasn't going to buy new nails because he was like a Depression era kind of a dude. But, I kind of sat there and I was just like, wow. My brother kind of laughs about that, and he's like, Todd, you got so much on the job training. No wonder you can swing a hammer so well and drive a crooked nail like nobody else. Well, hey guys, listen, I appreciate you watching. Man, I love doing these videos for you for the Carpenter Apprentice, and you're out there with your apprenticeship programs, and that's awesome. Hey, drop me a note. I'd love to hear about your story. How long you've been on the job? How's it going for you? Is it a union or non-union job? Are you on a framing crew? Hey, leave a comment below. Let me hear from you. Well, hey, it's all about the hammer. Cool deal. Hey, another episode of Sawdust Dude in the books. And I appreciate you watching. It's about the hammer. Hey, get out there, get some work done, man. Drive some straight nails, and they won't call you lightning anymore. But anyway, they'll call you something else. Don't worry. You're the new guy. What can I say? Cool deal. Hey, appreciate you watching. I'll see you real soon. Oh, yeah.